So Kanye just finished his live listening party for Donda. The album hasn't dropped yet, but this is a review of some of the songs that he has released so far, and boy is there a lot to talk about. We Gonna Be Okay is an epic instrumental introduction to the album. When you listen to this track, the heavy orchestral melodies, coupled with a screaming organ and Kanye preaching We Gonna Be Okay, really just feels like you're walking into the gates of heaven. As beautiful as it is, and this may just be for the listening party, but the song was a little bit too long and repetitive, being around 7 minutes long without much variation. But that might not make it onto the final release. Parts of this song did feel a bit unfinished, and I feel like we will definitely see a revision or an edit for the final album. Come to Life featuring Pusha T was a song that begins with Kanye's mother Donda West giving an epic speech praising the impact her son has had on an entire generation, and more importantly, an entire culture. I feel like this song is a continuation of the intro track, utilizing similar heavy orchestral melodies to create a beautiful heavenly experience. This track allows Kanye to also exercise his proper vocal connection with this song. He performs an awesome duet with Pusha T, and together I feel like they do a great job of harmonizing with the angelic overtones of the track. Production wise, this song does extremely well, but also feels somewhat unfinished, and we may see further edits in the album release. Junior featuring Cardi is a song that hits you straight away with a deep, reverberating bass. Kanye sings alongside Cardi to provide an experience that is very heavy and visceral. Although it's one of the shorter and more raw tracks, it definitely goes hard, but production wise, once again, sounds really unfinished. Remote is a solo song by Kanye, which begins with a really high pitched melody by Kanye, alongside a subtle piano piece. There's a beautiful solo whistling throughout the song, which really takes me back. It just honestly takes you somewhere higher. I think the song does really well with what it has so far, but once again, the production seems a little bit rushed, and it almost sounds like it's missing a verse, even though it's such a long track.
It cannot always be night.
Praise God featuring Travis Scott and Baby Keem starts off with a high pitched introduction by Travis, which switches into arguably one of the hardest Travis verses I've heard in a long time. His flow and cadence throughout this song are really on another level. Throughout the track, Kanye continues the heavenly orchestral melody, which has now solidified itself as a recurring motif of this album. Travis ends his verse and passes straight onto Baby Keem's verse, who does a fantastic job of continuing the magnitude of Travis's aura on this track. Kanye's production of the song seemed like the first one that was actually wholly complete, and it's probably my favorite track on the album so far. Losing My Family is another solo song by Kanye, which begins by him kneeling on the ground. There's a harsh but beautiful background tone of an electric guitar matching his melody as he sings about losing his family. Donda speaks over the song and talks about how no matter how you are in life, you never abandon your family. I'm not even sure what to say about this one, to be honest. I don't even know if it's going to be released on the actual album. It didn't sound like a full proper song. It sounded more like a demo of what the song will be when it comes out. The production is definitely unfinished, but even with what it has, the message it portrays and the story it tells, it's definitely an epic experience and has huge potential for the final album. The next song, Hurricane, featuring Lil Baby and Casey, begins with a heavily auto-tuned Kanye introduction, which then transitions in one of the best Lil Baby verses I've recently heard. And that's saying quite a lot, considering how active and amazing Lil Baby has been recently. Casey has a nice little melody in the middle of the track. The remainder of this song, though, just sounds like an unfinished Kanye demo song. I'm almost certain this won't drop as it is on the album because it just needs so much work vocally. Although the rest of the production is incredible, and personally I think it's one of the better songs so far, definitely needs a lot of work. Moon featuring Don Toliver. This song begins by saying, I want to go to the moon, and then it proceeds to take you there, with some of the most ethereal and majestic production I've ever heard, not only on this album but ever before. The vocal melody on this track is truly incredible, and although the rest of the track feels somewhat unfinished in terms of production, I don't really care. Even just as it is, this is one of the most beautiful and heavenly tracks on the album. Shoulder to Lean On featuring Vori and Lil Durk. There's a lot going on this next track. We have the hook and chorus, which melodically sounds really good when coupled with the soft, low orchestral music in the background. Lil Durk's verse in the middle of the track definitely provides an added layer of diversity to the song, and he makes a pretty solid performance. Vori also sings really nicely throughout the track, and overall, I think this seems like one of the more polished songs on the album. And although there was a nice, catchy melody, it didn't really blow me away, but definitely one of the nicer tracks. Pure Souls featuring Roddy Ricch. This song begins really quickly with a strong verse by Roddy, coupled with a soft piano instrumental. As the verse begins to expand in depth and substance, the production of the track evolves with a raising orchestral melody alongside the piano. The song builds into Kanye's verse, who we haven't heard in a little while. He performs another solid piece, and the song ends up being pretty decent overall, but once again doesn't really surprise you or blow you away as you would hope. We Made It featuring Pop Smoke. A heavy piano beat provides the re-entrance for Pop Smoke back into the scene. This posthumous verse sounds like it was recorded a while ago on his phone or something, and Kanye just happened to come across it. Pretty standard verse from Pop, followed by a decent melody, but this song just feels unfinished and has barely been mastered properly. I Know God Breathed on This featuring Vori. Some old Kanye type vibes in the introduction to the song, where Kanye just starts spitting that he knows even God breathes on this. There's a sudden switch back to the orchestral theme of this album, with a deep humming being raised in volume throughout the song. There's a transition into a really nice sounding verse from Vori, who also does the hook of this song. Coupled with the deep humming of the orchestra, really elevates the sound of this track, one of the more solid overall sounding tracks on this album. No Child Left Behind featuring Vori. Vori returns for another feature on this album, but this one gives him a little bit more time to shine in the track on his own. He's able to really showcase his vocal talents and creates a really nice sounding melodious tone, which is balanced quite nicely with the high and light orchestral production on this track. As the music elevates, Kanye rounds up the outro. Although the song is really promising in its current state, it once again feels like an unfinished demo or even an interlude type of track. Definitely has a lot of potential for the final album though. Jail featuring Jay-Z. The final song of the listening party, and boy was this song a surprise. I don't think anyone really expected this, and the internet was going crazy of the return of this partnership. Kanye performs the first half of this song alongside an aggressive electric guitar solo, similar to the track Losing My Family. The beat continues with an overhanging electric solo that occasionally hits us with that dun dun, dun dun, which I think works really nicely with the rest of the song. Kanye questions us throughout this song. Guess who's going to jail tonight? And while you're thinking about that during the second chorus, we hear some ad-libs from Jay-Z and realize what's about to happen. Jay-Z performs what is really an exceptional verse and a reminder of what these two could provide us with back in the day and what they can still do. These two haven't performed on a track together in like 10 years, and this was truly an incredible moment in musical culture, a revisiting one of the greatest hip-hop stories of generations past. Overall, the album, although it had huge potential, definitely fell a bit short. It's almost certainly unfinished, and as of recording, it's already past the apparent release time, and honestly probably won't be released for a good while still. The Bucks line means that Kanye must have wrote some of this pretty recently. There's even rumors that Jay-Z recorded his verse earlier on the same day as this release. Kanye only performed around half the rumor track list. The production and mastering on most of these songs feels like they need a lot of work. There were literally no drums in most of the songs. It's hard to give a rating on what's still an unfinished project, but it definitely was better than Jesus is King, which isn't really saying that much. As is, this album is probably a 6 to 6.5 out of 10 at best, but when this is finished, this could definitely be in the running for Album of the Year. I'm excited to review the full album when Kanye finally releases it in like 6 months.